Hi everyone, this is Peppa Crochets. Welcome back to a new video. In this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you guys how I created this crochet mini skirt. I'm also going to be explaining the basic blueprint that I use for making skirts. So it doesn't just have to be a mini, it could be a midi skirt, a maxi skirt, and you can also customize the split. You can have no split if you like, a wider split, a thinner split. And at the very end, I'm going to be showing you guys how I also added an elastic waistband. So let's get started. For this project, I'm going to be using a weight 3 bamboo yarn. I thought it would be perfect for a nice breezy summer skirt, and I'm grabbing my 3.75mm hook. Now this skirt blueprint is going to be based on measurements, so you can use any size hook or yarn. So I took a couple of measurements here. The first measurement is going to be your waist. The second is going to be the high hip area, and the third is going to be the widest part of your hips. You want to use the waist measurement if you want your skirt to start up higher, to be more of like a high-waisted skirt. However, for me, I wanted my skirt to start a little bit lower around my belly button area, so I took this high hip measurement, and I'm going to be using the high hip measurement and the hip measurement, the widest part of my hips. So let's zoom in here. So for my waist measurement, I had 26 inches. However, I'm not going to be using this measurement because I want my skirt to start lower. So I'm going to be using the hips, which is about 35 inches for me across the widest point, and then my high hip area was around 28 inches. For me, that was a total of 108 foundation double crochet stitches. I'm going to be showing you guys how to make the foundation double crochet stitches in a moment here. You can just start making the stitches and continue to wrap it around your waist or your high hip area until it reaches all the way across, or continue measuring it with the measuring tape until it's the desired length. Now we're going to begin our foundation double crochet stitches. This just avoids having to do a chain and then going back to do the double crochet stitches, and it just consolidates the process and makes it easier to measure it around where you want the skirt to start. So we begin with a slip knot, and we're going to put in our hook, and we're going to start off with a chain up of 3. Now you're going to yarn over, go into that very first chain you made, and you want to make sure you grab both the front and the back loops here. And we're going to pull up a loop. Now we have 3 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over, pull through that top loop, which is going to be the foundation, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and yarn over and pull through 2 more for a double crochet. You're going to work your hook into the back portion. There's going to be like a little V shape with the 2 stitches there closest to the yarn. So let's do it again. We're going to pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the top, which is the foundation, and then we're going to do a double crochet. This is going to be the band or the very top of your skirt. So what you can do is you can make the foundation double crochet stitches and just keep measuring it up against where you want the skirt to be until it's your desired length, or you can use the measuring tape to keep measuring it until it's your desired length. So for me, it was 28 inches long, which was 108 of these double crochet foundation stitches. I also made sure to end my chain on an even number, so at the very end when I go to do those little dot details, that the dots are evenly spaced out. Here I have my 108 double crochet foundation stitches, and now we're going to join the 2 sides together to make a round. So what you're going to do is you're going to just make sure that the band isn't twisted or in the opposite direction, and you're going to place your hook into the very top, that very first stitch right there, and we're going to join these 2 sides together by making a slip stitch. So to make a slip stitch, you're going to yarn over and pull that yarn all the way through both sides, and now the 2 sides are joined together. To begin round 2, we're going to do a chain up of 2 and turn our work. For this round, we're just going to be placing a double crochet into every stitch, including this very first stitch right here. When we get to the end, I'll show you how to join the round together. We're just going to be doing a slip stitch again. So just place a double crochet into every single stitch. To join these two sides together, we're going to be placing our hook into that top of the chain 2 that we did earlier, and we're going to be placing a slip stitch, and that will bring the two sides together. To start the next round, we're going to do a chain up of 2 and turn our work. And for this round as well, we're just going to be placing a double crochet into every single stitch. I'm going to be doing a couple of rounds of no increases, just straight through double crochets, because for my body, the top portion of my high hip area goes straight for a little bit before it starts increasing for my hips. If you have different measurements, for example, if you started at your waist and you find that you need to start increasing a little sooner than I did, you can skip ahead of these next couple of rounds to where I show you guys how to do the increases. I'm going to show you guys one last time how to bring these two ends together. So we're putting our hook into that very top of the chain 2 that we made earlier, and we're going to be joining the two ends with a slip stitch. Then to begin the next round, you do a chain up of 2 and you're going to turn your work. I'm going to keep going until I have a total of 4 rows, and then I'm going to meet you guys at the end. I just finished my 4 rows. This is about 2 inches for me. Now we're going to grab 2 stitch markers because we're going to begin our increases. Before we do our increases, we want to determine where we want our seam to be if we're going to be doing a split. If you're not doing a split, you might want to have the seam on the side or on the back of your skirt. But for me, I want my split to be in this front area. So I'm just going to draw it out so it makes a little bit more sense. So I want the seam to be here because I want the split to be on top of my thigh. So from there, I'm going to determine where I want my increases to be so that it accommodates my hips. So I want it to be on the 2 sides, one closer to the seam and one a little bit further away from the seam, if that makes sense. I hope this drawing helps a little bit. So I'm going to put my stitch marker, one here, a little bit closer to the seam, and one over here. That's where I'm going to increase to accommodate my hips because I want my seam to be over my thigh area. To begin, I'm going to place my work in the position that I want the split to be in. So I wanted it to be over my thigh. The red stitch marker is where we left off, and that's where the seam is. And I'm placing 1 stitch marker on one side right there closer to the seam, and the other stitch marker on the other side. And this will tell me where I'm going to be doing the increases to accommodate my hip, and you can kind of visualize how this skirt is going to progress here. To begin, we're going to remove the stitch marker, do a chain up of 2, turn our work, and we're going to be placing a double crochet to every stitch until we get to that first stitch marker. Now we're going to be doing our increase. So you're going to be placing 2 double crochets into that increase stitch. So here's my first double crochet, and into that very same stitch I'm going to be placing another double crochet for an increase. Once I finish, I'm just putting my stitch marker right back into that stitch to mark that increase spot. And then we're going to double crochet into every stitch until we get to the other stitch marker on the other side, the blue one, where we're going to be doing another increase. We're going to place 2 double crochets into this blue stitch marker for another increase. After this row, I did alternating rows of increasing into the stitch markers and then 1 row of no increases. So placing just 1 double crochet into the stitch and putting the stitch marker right back. I did this for a total of 5 rows, so alternating between increase and no increases, until I reached the width of my hips, which is 35 inches. if your hips are larger and they increase more quickly than mine do, then I suggest just doing increased rows. Or if they don't increase as quickly, you can do 1 increased row, 2 non-increased rows, and so on and so forth. So for me, at around 4.5 inches, I reached the width of my hips. So now I'm going to remove the stitch markers because I no longer need to do any increases. Here we have our diagram again. So we finished our increases and we're at the widest point of our hips. Now we're just going to be doing regular double crochet, no increase rows until we reach the point where we want to start doing our split. So for me, since I'm doing a mini skirt, I did regular rows up until I had a length about 9.5 inches, and that's where I want to start my split. I just kept trying the skirt on and looking in the mirror and kind of figuring out where I wanted it to begin. So at the end, this is what I have. I have 9.5 inches total. And now I'm going to start the split. So previously we've been joining the two ends by going into the top of that chain 2, but we're not going to be doing that. We're not doing a slip stitch. We're going to just chain up 2 and turn our work. To do a decrease, you're going to yarn over, go into that very first stitch, pull up a loop, go into the very next stitch, pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through all 4 loops on your hook. For my skirt personally, I wanted a dramatic and large split, so I decreased at the beginning at the end like so. I did that for 2 rows. If you don't want a dramatic split, you don't have to do the decreases. You can just chain 2, turn your work, and continue going until it reaches your desired length. If you want a more dramatic split, you can do more rows with decreases. It's very customizable depending on your taste. So I'm at the last 2 stitches here and I'm doing 1 more decrease where I yarn over, pull up a loop, go into the very next stitch, pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through the 4 loops on my hook. Now you can see the split starting to form. So I do that for 1 more row, I chain 2 and I do another decrease at the beginning and 1 more decrease at the end. At the end of my decrease rows, I just continued doing rows of double crochet until it reached the desired length of my mini skirt. Again, for that, I just kept trying it on and checking myself in the mirror until it was the length that I preferred. So I kept doing the no decrease rows, and this is what I have at the end. This came to about 12 inches, and of course I just kept trying it on and it was the perfect length for me. Now we're just going to chain up 1 and turn our work to the side where the split is because we want to clean up that edge on the split. We're going to be adding single crochets all the way down this split here. So I'm just kind of going in randomly but making sure that they're evenly spaced, putting my hook in, pulling up a loop, yarning over and pulling through 2 for a single crochet. And I did that along the entire split seam. To begin making the little dot details at the bottom of the skirt, you're going to switch out your hook. Then you're going to do a chain up of 1 and add single crochets until you're ready to do the little dot detail. I had a total of 112 stitches at the end, so I did the dots on every 4th stitch. Here's my 4th single crochet. From here, I'm going to do a chain up of 3, and then I'm going to place my hook back into those front loops, the 2 loops right here at the very base of the chain up of 3, right there, and do a slip stitch. So I'm just going to yarn over and pull the yarn all the way through and then through the loop on my hook. Then to secure, you're going to do a chain up of 1 and then just continue the pattern. So I did 3 single crochets, and into the 4th single crochet I did the chain up of 3 for the dot and did the slip stitch, chained 1, and then continue the pattern all the way around the base of the skirt. Depending on how many stitches you have, you can determine how spaced out you want your little dot details to be, if you choose to do it at all. I continued this pattern of making these little dot details on every 4th stitch all the way around until I reached the other side, Once I reached the other side, I did a chain up of 1 and cut my yarn and pulled it through. So this is what it looks like when it's all done. Now we're going to turn the skirt inside out and bring the waistband to the top and measure it out. Mine was about 14 inches and I wanted my elastic to be about 4 inches less. So I doubled it up like so and measured out about 10 inches, which is 4 inches less than the 14 inches of my skirt. And with just a thread and needle, I'm going to go in and out and secure those two ends together, like so. You can choose to also sew this waistband onto your skirt, but I'm going to just crochet it on. So I positioned the waistband by putting it over the skirt, and I'm going to make a slip knot. And I'm going to place the hook under the elastic and put it into one of the stitches at the top here. Once I place the hook through the stitch, I'm going to put the slip knot on top and secure it and pull it through. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be making single crochets. I'm going to be doing 2 into every stitch so it covers the waistband. So I'm pulling the yarn and pulling up a loop and pulling it to the height of the waistband like so it's not tight, and then doing a single crochet. So once again, I'm putting the hook through the stitch, pulling up a loop, pulling up so that's the height of the elastic, and then yarning over and pulling through the 2 loops on my hook for a single crochet. And I'm making sure that the elastic isn't bent backwards, so I'm kind of holding it with my thumb there as I do the single crochet. And you're just going to do this all the way around, 2 single crochets per stitch if you have a thinner yarn, and just 1 if you have a thicker yarn. As you go along, this is what it should look like. Once all the ends are woven in, this is the final product. This blueprint for a crochet skirt is just so easy to do and it's very customizable. Again, it's based on your measurements and you can customize whether or not you want a split, how wide you want the split to be, the length of the skirt, even the stitches that you decide to do. It doesn't have to be double crochet, you could do half double crochet, you can experiment with different stitches and just really make it your own. This is what my mini skirt looks like on. I just love the little dot details at the bottom. It adds a really nice finishing touch to the skirt itself. And to me, this is the perfect mini skirt length. Let me know in the comment section below if you guys try out this skirt blueprint and if you decide to make a midi, mini, or a maxi skirt. As usual, I have many more tutorials coming. I have a lot of summer themed tops and dresses coming, so please stay tuned. Bye everyone, I'll see you in the next video.